Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome everyone in the class of African literature. Previously, what we discussed that is about the Ben Okri's work Famish Road, and in the previous lecture we discussed about the politics and history in the Famish Road and the magical realism in the Famished Road. So, how has depicted the politics and history by using the technique of magical realism, and that was quite a long talk. In this lecture, we are going to talk about, or we are going to make a thematic analysis of the Famish Road, that what kind of themes he has depicted, or what kind of issues Ben Okri was trying to depict in his work. So, in order to move further, I want you to know about the term theme. What exactly does it mean? So the theme is basically all in the previous grades or in the lower grades you may have throughout the studies we do talk about the word theme, that theme basically depicts or denotes the main idea, or you can say the underlying meaning or the hidden meaning of the work or any literary work, any piece of work which the author he has stated directly or indirectly. So, and it is up to the reader to find out those themes, and there are two types of themes, that major themes and minor themes. Major theme basically the writer that he repeats in his work, and he makes those themes significant ones. So the minor themes, on the other hand, they refer to the ideas that appear in the work briefly, like giving away to another minor theme. That is there are two types of the themes, the major themes and the minor themes, and basically the purpose of writing or the main idea of the work, or the main message of the work, it does fall under the category of theme. How does the writer or the author depicts the themes or presentation of themes? The writer or any author, he presents themes in literary work through several means. Like he may express a theme through the feelings of his main character about the subject he has chosen to write about, or themes are often represented through the conversation of the different characters or experiences of the different characters, or actions or events taking place in the narrative. So such are the things that determine the themes of the work, and which help the writer in conveying the message to the readers. So the major themes that Ben Okri discussed in this work are: first one is the poverty. Poverty is the major theme, and it is dominant theme in all the African works, the works of African literature. And it is basically the central theme of this work, and poverty as experienced by the Azaro's parents was extreme, and the extremity of the poverty or the financial crisis that led the Azaro's father into becoming a black tiger. This thing, the poverty, it sent Black Tiger into the insanity when he found out that he was practically important to change his situation. So his head potter, which earned him little to keep his home running, was threatened by his political affiliation. So he became a person like non grata at the garage where he worked. So his wife also suffered similar, and they suffered fate, So his wife suffered similar fate at the market, where the party's thugs would destroy her shed and prevent her from selling at the market. She used to sell matchsticks or such kind of things to earn money. So she had to go resort to hawking, so which became the impossible during the rainy season. So this because of this thing, Azaru's parents, they descended they descended deep and deep into the the object of the poverty. So the little they got were also spent on ceremonies anytime their son returned his spiritual escapes. Later on, the black tiger will become an accidental and occasional, the outburst for them. There is also a speech of prophetic and philosophical speech in the end by the black tiger that has quite an significance in this work, and as that speech shows hope to the to Africa and to African people. And there I have opted to I have depicted two images over here just to depict the poverty of the Africa. And you can just imagine there are many areas in the Africa, like whole of the Africa is, although there are rich resources over there, but still the African people, they suffer from the poverty. The reason for the poverty, it will become clear later in coming lectures, that although they are rich in resources, but why are they are still poor. First reason, or I am going to just give you a little bit, that it might be that because the colonizers, they came to their lands and they used their resources for their own economic good. It might be the first reason. Before the acknowledgement, or before the awareness of the the African people, they just couldn't get the awareness, they just couldn't get get to know the importance or the significance of their resources, as they were far from the worldly things, and they were living in their own words. They were not even, and they didn't even know about the outside words. So that was one reason. It might be the one reason for their poverty. Second, next major theme is politics and corruption. Politics and corruption, it plays quite an important role in any nation's good. As Africa, it has seen quite a lot the hardship or sufferings, or the era of misery. So when it became an independent nation, the Republic of Africa, when it came into being, even after becoming an independent nation, they suffered quite a lot on the hands of their own leaders, as Africa is quite large continent, and it was divided into many parties to control of the Africa, different regions of the Africa. Almost there were 4 to 5 parties that took control of different regions of Africa, and every region was loyal to his own party. As you may say that every tribe was loyal to his own tribe, and they were not loyal to the other tribe. So this same thing was happening with the political parties, that every party was thinking of giving benefits or thinking of doing good for his her own region, and instead of thinking on the whole. So they were just thinking about their own regions, or instead of thinking as a whole, like instead of thinking Africa as a whole or Africa as a whole nation, as occurred depicted in the work, that the period in which this novel was set, it is the period like it was set in 1990s. So a period where the colonial government was just about like they were leaving the country and the independence looms in on their horizon. It was written published in 1991, this work, but it depicted the whole era, that how the whole era of independence of African nation. So when the independence looms on the horizon, the two political parties have been formed which must convince the people to vote for them, to assume the reins of governance. Ben Ocker depicted two parties, the rich party for the rich, and party for the poor. So each of these parties, they are involved in deception and lies. However, because the party for the rich has wealth, and it has more supporters, more thugs, and more money to spend on food for distribution to the people. They had more resources. So the behavior of this party is no different from the behavior of Ali's government in 1984, where negative means a positive and vice versa. 1984, you can also recall the work 1984 by George Orwell. There was also the same condition. George Orwell also depicted the same condition, how the elite government was controlling everything. So in this work, when the party for the rich hires thugs to beat people who do not support them, they do so whilst preaching love and affection and care on megaphones. Means there was a juxtaposition, there was a paradox, there was a contradiction in the words and the actions. They were demanding vote by using force. On the other hand, they were preaching the lessons, or the preaching love, care and affection. So they claim their love to the people in the midst of the unrelenting blood flow. Even when they are beating the people, they will be blaming the other party for a crime they are presently committing. Whenever they beat the people, the rich party, the people of the thugs of the rich party, and in order to justify that beating, they would say that they are beating the people because of the poor party, because of the things or the wrongdoings of the poor party. So the power of the words that got hold of them, such that the black tiger, the Azaro's father, sometimes got confused as to which of the two parties is committing crimes. Though he was vehemently and ferociously against the party for the rich. Along with the dirty politics of thuggery and intimidation, there came the self-aggrandizement. I forgot one point about the corruption. Obviously, they were corrupt parties, and they were dishonest, and and one other thing, in the political parties, they were looking for the personal benefits. I would like to quote here the example of the Lion and the Jewel, the Baroka. He was only interested in using those modern inventions that were benefiting him personally. So here is the same case, that the parties, they were only putting forward their personal benefits by using in the by fakely presenting the need of their regions, but inwardly, or in other words, they were presenting their own needs, their personal benefits. Next one is the self-aggrandizement. Okay, basically it is about, as I previously mentioned, personal benefits, or putting yourself first, or as compare, or putting yourself first instead of putting the greater good for the people. It is not about the utilitarian, it is not the utilitarian approach. Rather, it is the you can also say the selfish approach. The people who join the political parties not for the benefit of the nation, rather for their own personal benefits. So the self-aggrandizement does fall into that category. For example, the Madame Khoto, she was a staunch member of the Party for the Rich, and she became rich after joining the party, and she got all the contracts to cook for the parties and gatherings. So all the customers, and she was the first person to get electric power in the community, and also the first to drive an automobile. So after joining the party, she was becoming rich, and she was getting her hands on wealth. Alternatively, the Black Tiger, the dad, Azaro's dad, he was against the party of the rich. He spoke his mind, which was always against a party for the rich. He got into the fights often, and often with the people of the party, and his landlord as well. Landlord who was also the member of the party for the rich. So increased, that is why because of his disliking the landlord, he increased his rent, and became his nemesis. So again, the photographer Jeremiah, who went around documenting the activities and atrocities of the parties on the people, became a haunted individual and was always on the run. So the photographer was the conscious or memory of the society, basically, who was capturing and saving and collecting and recollecting the happenings in the society. Ockrey put the character of the photographer in the work, because he wanted to give the image that everything that was happening there, it was being recorded, whether in the written form or whether in the art form, in any other form of art. What was happening, it was being recorded, and whether the people were in the favor of this record keeping or not. So whosoever went for this aggrandizement, that person automatically gain benefits, automatically gain in financial success, as depicted by the Ben Ockrey in this work. Next theme is environmental degradation. In this first image, you can see here is a person who is dividing Africa. The people, they were dividing Africa as a piece of cake. as if they were distributing the cake among themselves. So here's another picture. No offense. So it pasted this picture just to make just to give you the clear understanding of the things. There isn't like anything, or there isn't any blame. My purpose is not to put blame on anyone, rather the pictures that I pasted here, that is just a purpose to clarify the understanding how the environmental degradation was happening. So here is another picture. I claimed this land in the name of His Majesty. They were dividing the lands. I structurally adjust this land in the name of economic growth. So here is also the mining is going on in this picture, diamond mining. So these the basically the environmental degradation in this work by Nockery depicted by the road building. So the colonizers, they were making changes in the Africa. So without acknowledging these the traditions or the customs or the behavior of the African people, they were trying to modernize the Africa. And on the other hand, the African people, they were just unable to accept that change, and they were looking the change with negativity, and it was as if it was destroying their environment. About the road building, there is also a separate lecture on the road building in topic. So the environmental degradation in this work, which moves in tandem with rapid uncontrolled development and urbanization. So trees and the whole forest were destroyed. River bodies were filled with waste, and flooding became an issue. So they were in the beginning of this work. I have mentioned in the previous lecture, there is a quote that once there was a river. So once there was a river means they were just converting things so rapidly that the previous things, past things, they didn't know how to make ways. Because of that thing, the flooding became an issue in the region, and the trees were moved, the forests were cut down in order to bring modernization, or in order to bring the urbanization. And there was mining going on. All the resources were they were being sent to the they were sending all the resources outside the Africa in order to for the economic gain, in order to enhance their own economy instead of enhancing the economy of the African people. And the Africans, they were unaware of this thing. They were benefiting the others from their own resources. So this thing also caused poverty in the Africa. So and it also caused environmental degradation. When the black tiger went round with the crippled beggars to clean the town, the filth came back with vengeance. His sanity was questioned, and he was just he was going round and round talking about the need to clean the environment and help the people. Black tiger means the Azaro's father. And in the form of Azaro's father, Ben Okri was conveying the message. on the need to clean their environment, on the need to put things in places, and on the need to get rid of the dirt, to awaken themselves, their own selves, to make change in the environment, to make change, to change their destinies, to change their fate. So Dad's voice basically the voice of the Ben Okri. So the next theme is spiritual heritage. Spiritual heritage is another theme in this work, and how the spiritual heritage is the same as Azaru. He has a connection with the spirit world, and other than the Azaru, we can notice in the work that Azaru's dad, he also had some encounters with the spirits, and apart from that, Madame Khotu, she also had she can also see the spirits. So Azaru is the one with the spirit connection, but as the novel progresses, readers, they begin to notice that his father has also strange encounters with spirits. So although the Azaru is born a spirit child, his eligibility to connect with the spirit seems to relate to his father. So the two of them share this bond of discernment regarding spiritual forces and non-material subjects. So when the Azaru's father begins training to box, and he starts being attacked by spirits, Azaru is the only one who can see them, but his father is targeted by the spirits. So this confirms the legitimacy of his conviction that he must do boxing. So if the evil spirits are fighting him, then he must be doing something to threaten their authority in town. So by the time he defeats the man in the white suit, Azaru's father has freed the town of the oppressive spiritual force which has been bothering them, such as the spirits in Madame Khotu's bar, like especially Azaru wrestling with the spirits in his dreams. Azaru's father, he participates in a similar battle as Azaru on a daily basis. So although Azaru's father, he doesn't see literal spirits like his son, he does understand them, believe in them, and see them in his dreams. So the father-son connection, it appears to be the root of Azaru's family's success. So that is how he just that is how the defeat of spirits by the hands of Azaru's father, it also frees Azaru's and the town from the spirits. That was basically the spiritual heritage. The Azaru can see the spirits, and his father can also feel the spirits and see them in his dreams. So they two share a bond because of which they both can somehow see the spirits. So it is also a myth in the African, like Abiku child, as Azaru is an Abiku child, and the child Abiku means the child who keeps on getting born again and again to the same mother, and it was the unending cycle of life, birth, death, birth, death. There isn't life in this cycle. So the next theme is symbolic leadership. As I have posted the picture, you can see what is the difference between a leader and a boss. Boss is who just passes orders or gives orders, while a leader is who motivates and who helps his peers to move along, to get the work done. So that is the difference between leaders and bosses. So symbolic leadership, this theme is depicted by the Azaru's father. When Azaru's father, he decides to box, he becomes a leader in his community, and as in the work you can see in many places he gives speeches, he tries to change the people, he tries to change the environment, and he tries to urge his people to motivate his people to change things. So formerly earlier he was kind of a deadbeat, but he earns the respect of his neighbors by consistently improving in his craft, the boxing or the wrestling. So he draws crowds to his fights, even becoming popular among the elite, but he is the common man's champion. So just the same as the people made a monument from the party of the richest van, they commemorate Azaru's father for his achievements. So he represents his class, the poor class, inspiring the other people to believe in excellence and seemingly impossible dreams. So pursuing his passion, he becomes a symbolic leader among the people, uplifting them. He was because he was motivating them. He was becoming an example of the people of his own class. So true, his profession is conducted for entertainment, but entertainment and celebration are rare among this community. So they need someone to believe in, and even if the activity is potentially trivial. So in the end, Azaru's father, he becomes a true hero by defeating the ghost man in the white suit and freeing the town from spiritual darkness. So that is how he become a leader, or he act as or he become a symbolic leader in this work. As he was also facing financial crises, he was also facing troubles. He often gets into dispute with the partyman, with the landlord. So when he decided to pursue the boxing or the wrestling, this thing earned him respect, and this thing totally changed him, because the reason for starting the boxing, because of the aggression. He didn't want to beat his son, he didn't want to fight his own son. That is why he just chose another way for the outburst, for his aggressive outburst. So he put his all the energy in the or all the potential in the wrestling, and it ultimately earned him respect. Next one is suspicion. Suspicion is another theme, and suspicion is everywhere in these days as well. We have become such people who suspect everything. We do suspect people's intention. If a person is friendly with us without any mean, so we just start suspecting the intention of the person, that why that person is being good with us. There must be any reason, there must be any mean. One cannot be so friendly or so cooperative without any personal gain. So it is quite deep rooted in our minds, the suspicion or doubt. So the community in which Azaru grows up is deeply characterized by suspicion, as they have many myths and beliefs and traditions. So suspicion or superstition is another thing. So people remain somewhat aloof from one another because they literally cannot afford to do otherwise. They cannot get into trouble for someone else's sake. Azaru's family defies this expectation by housing Jeremy, the photographer. They give him shelter while he was in hiding from the people of the party. So willing to risk their own safety for the safety of the photographer, they demonstrate a value system than the rest of their community. Suspicion is rampant. However, Azaru's family's landlord becomes so paranoid about the boys' Azaru's weird trances and illness and the father's drunken aggression that he charges them more than any other tenants. He demands more rent from them as compared to the other people. So Madame Kuto, she also demonstrates a deep superstition born out of suspicion. She observes the strange way that Azaru behaves, and she invites him to spend time in her bar, hoping that he will attract positive energies. So, when he engages in the spiritual warfare with some undesirable spirits, she becomes suspicious that he is actually the root of the problem. He brings negativity, he brings negative vibes in the bar. So, he eventually hangs an ornament in the door which serves as a spiritual magnet, but this only leads to more trouble because it appears to attract only malignant spirits. So the town people in turn suspect her of witchcrafts because of strange occurrences at her bar, and each in their own way the town people are plagued by the pervasive suspicion. Plagued means they were suffering, they were diseased by this suspicion. So the doubtless the result of the severity of their daily lives. They were just suspecting each other, they were suspecting each other, and they were not offering help to the other person so that they may not get into the trouble. So there was a fight for the survival, and because of the fight for the survival, and there is always the survival of the fittest. So because of that survival, everyone was looking for his own self, everyone was looking for his own and his families. They are not getting into trouble because of someone else's sake. But Azaru's father, Azaru's family was a bit different from the other community. So these are some of the themes of this work, but there are some other themes that I would like to discuss in the next lecture, as those themes they require quite a discussion. So to conclude this lecture here, I would say that Ben Okri's word is quite colorful. Even the wind could be silvery or blue in his word, and he just represent everything in a way that it becomes beauty and enigma. So he represents everything, and there isn't even a single line that wasn't beautiful, and because of the beauty of the things or the imagery or the scenery he presented, or the proverbs he used, or the word language he used, because of these things, these things they just keep the reader busy till the 500 pages of this work. We may say that the Flemish Road is like the Harry Potter series, where Hogwarts is located somewhere in London, but only wizards could see. But this would be a matured, and the Flemish Road, it would be a matured and elevated version. Except that in Africa, the existence of a Hogwartian word would not shock the Muggle. So that is all for this lecture, and the remaining things I will discuss those things in the next lecture. And I have also put references from where I have collected the data, and you can visit these references as well in order to collect some more data. Okay, that is all for this lecture. Thank you for your patience. Stay blessed.